But you know, women are more supportive of one another around children. If a woman gets pregnant, you know, other women pitch in and they sort of talk about it, and it's far more useful. You know, when men are about to have a child, if they have young male single friends, they're not so good. You know this. You know, your male friends arrive and they stand there and they look at you and they come and see the baby and they don't really know how to deal with it. You know, they don't get it, because they go, well, I'm here, you know, your house is a medley of disgusting smells, there's nothing to eat, everybody's wearing bathrobes, there's no bar, I can't fuck anybody, why am I here? And women tend to be more mature. You know, men look at breasts the way women look at babies. Oh, isn't that lovely? And if a woman gets pregnant, all the women she's ever met in her whole life will appear from all corners of the earth to support her by telling her horror stories of all the pregnancies they've ever heard about. It's fantastic what you're doing. I love the way you're handling this. It won't be like what happened to Michelle. What? What happened to Michelle? Oh, did I say Michelle? I didn't mean to mention that. I'm sorry. Don't worry. She was a fool. She ate vegetables and drank water. The baby came out her ear. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. Nothing will happen to you. She can't sit down now. Nobody in the family talks to one another. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Men remain envious of women, despite what women think. Men would like to be female sometimes, to understand things more, to have access, to have the freedom to ask these questions that women say every day. Why did you put the wet towel on the bathroom floor? Well, you left it there. Why did you do that? Well, me and the guys were talking about it over a period of weeks, you know, in the bunker. And we figured that was the best place for it. It wouldn't work in the kitchen. The questions that everybody asks now are the questions that everybody has always asked about each other. You know, you still hear all this stuff, what do women want? As though it's really mysterious, as though it's a big deal. All a woman wants is what anybody wants. You know, friendship and companionship and respect and a certain amount of leadership with submission and a kind of cooperation at all times and a preemptive empathy and, you know, general telepathy. It's no big deal, is it? And then when the same questions are asked of men, what is it that men want? You're always told that it's really very simple. You know, it's something like lingerie. Now, historically, there hasn't been a big demand for male lingerie from women because there's a limited amount you can do with male genitalia. There's a limited amount you can do with anything that looks like it's hanging out of the side of a shark's mouth. And it doesn't really matter if you put a velvet gown around it, it's not going to do the trick. We're told that this is what men want, lingerie, you know, for women to look like cakes. It's not enough that you want to be with me and love me. You must first be a French fancy. And now women don't want that. Traditionally, women have been attracted to uniforms. So it's not difficult to know what women want. Fascists, that's really what they're all after. Say what you like about Nazi Germany. They turned heads. Everywhere those stormtroopers went, check him out before he kills us. That happened a lot. But sometimes I think it passes through the mind of heterosexual people that it might be easier to be gay. Because obviously, you know, there's apparently less responsibilities outside yourself. That's how it would appear sometimes. And also, you know, if you're straight and you're pissed off or stressed out, what do you do, really? You know, you have an extra piece of cake or a couple of drinks you shouldn't really have. If you're gay, you can go to a toilet and fuck a stranger. Now that has got to work some of the kinks out, hasn't it? Afterwards you must think, yeah, I can deal with my emails now. And But because of that, then you get straight people disparaging gay relationships and saying, well, they can't be meaningful, you know, if you met in a latrine. But most heterosexual people in this country and around the world meet each other and get together with one another when they're totally, totally drunk. Smashed out of their minds, they could not spell their own face. And they go home with that person. You might spend months with that person, or a year, or you might have a family. This is what happens. This is how you meet. But you wouldn't buy a toaster when you're drunk. Because that's too important. It's got to be crispy in just the right way, hasn't it? I think that's why you see couples sitting with their new babies outside cafes and so on, drinking tea, looking at one another, looking to the pram, looking into the middle distance and back to one another, because they're thinking, oh, what the fuck happened? I just thought we were going to have a few drinks. Who's this guy? And love is incredibly mysterious, as you know. And it's still the thing that troubles most people for a lot of their lives until they work it out, and which you may do eventually. You hear the conversations in the restaurants, the lovers speaking to one another, and it never really changes. People compete with one another as they're telling each other that they love each other. I love you. I love you. Yeah, but I really love you. I mean, I love you. I love pencils you have sucked and thrown away 20 years ago. I love your eyebrows and your ancestry and everything about you. Just eat your food and let me love you. Don't speak. And they don't know, of course, at the time that dialogue is just from a very bad science fiction film written by nature. Really what they're saying to one another is, the race must continue. The race must continue. My vidudium is pointing at your threnungulator. The race must continue. And if they don't handle it properly, you see them 40 years later, the same people in the same restaurant, if you have the time. You go there and you see them and they communicate in a different way now, in middle age. In some cultures it's called silence. Unless I'm missing something and they're saying a lot with the fork hitting the plate. And if their eyes do meet this time, it's not intimacy, it's embarrassment. The man makes that noise as he chomps his chop. In his throat, a kind of horrible sound, this sounds like a Balkan curse. And the woman has her own noise of disquiet. She's spearing her salad, like it sounds like a dove having a dump. And then they go home to the bed they've sheared. When you shear a bed, it's a difficult process.